Okay. In reaction to today's big breaking news, Amazon announced that it would not build its HQ2. It's part of its second headquarters in New York City, facing protests from local leaders and residents saying Amazon's new headquarters would cause soaring house prices and overwhelm an already congested mass transit system.
The project was championed by Governor Andrew Cuomo and New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio. The mayor responded just a short time ago, tweeting, "You have to make tough decision. You have to be tough to make it in New York City. We gave Amazon the opportunity to be a good neighbor and do business in the greatest city in the world. Instead of working with the community, Amazon threw away that opportunity." All
right, joining us now is New York State Senator Michael Gianaris, who represents Long Island City and surrounding areas in the state legislature. He lives in Astoria, Queens, which is nearby the Long Island City site where Amazon planned to build. Senator, you had been opposed to this HQ2 project, and you've said you worry about people who live and work in the area. And frankly, you were going to be in a position to sink this project. Would you have done so, and are you pleased with the decision?
Well, we never really knew what was going to come before this board that I was appointed to or not. But the fact is, Amazon showed us today why they would have been a bad partner for New York. The only thing that happened is a community that would have been devastated by their presence raised their hand and asked a question about what it would mean, and can we make sure that we are accommodating this massive presence that would land in the middle of our neighborhood. And rather than engage in a serious conversation, they took their ball and left. I think Mayor de Blasio is exactly right. That they showed that they weren't really meant for New York, given the way that they typically behave, which is through threats and extortion.
Other fellow Democrats, Carolyn Maloney, has said the opposite today. She said this is not a Valentine's treat for New York. We're missing out on opportunities to improve infrastructure in Long Island City and 25,000 jobs.
Well, people have different opinions about this, but I obviously disagree pretty wholeheartedly. Look, I've traveled to Seattle. I visited the Amazon campus. I've spoken to their former employees. I've spoken with Seattle City Council people. I've spoken with tech leaders in San Francisco. I have a very great sense of what big tech is doing to cities all throughout this country and the great concentration of power they've accumulated to the point where they could land in a city and say, give us $3 billion of your dollars or we're not coming. And maybe it's time that somebody stood up and inspired a national conversation about these types of corporate subsidies, because there's a reason Europe bans them. We should think about doing that here in the United States as well. There's no reason why the richest among us can shake us all down to get as much of our public dollars as possible just to grace us with their presence. And today, New York took a stand.
So putting the philosophy.
Yeah. What if they came and didn't ask for the tax break?
Well, that would have been a very different conversation. But the point I was making earlier, I think the point Mayor de Blasio was making, was that they never showed an interest in engaging in that kind of conversation. They were here only if they got things exactly the way they wanted them. And then when that didn't happen, and by the way, nothing happened other than this community put up our hands and said, hey, wait a minute. Let's ask some questions about what you're asking for, what's going to mean for us. And rather than engage in that conversation, they left. And that's pretty typical of the way Amazon does business.
Well, in fairness, I don't be humble about this whole thing. You're being about to be in a position to having been able to kill this deal must have been very influential. They dumped you before you could dump them.
Well, whatever it is, the point was if the terms of their being here were a take it or leave it a proposal that they had put on the table where they get $3 billion of our dollars to come here, and there was no discussion of making sure the housing market could accommodate them, that the subways would not be continuing to crumble as they are, that the schools would not continue to be overcrowded. None of those conversations happened. The only thing that happened is they said, give us your money or we're leaving. And if those are the terms, then it's a good thing that they left.
Do you need new businesses in Long Island City? Do you want businesses to come? Do you worry that what has happened here will dissuade others from setting up shop?
Look, New York will be just fine. Amazon is not bigger than New York, at least not yet. We have been growing. New York has been adding about 90,000 jobs every single year for the last decade or so. So these jobs are maybe 2% of the normal job growth that New York City experiences. So New York will be just fine with or without Amazon.